If you spent any time in the online Christian space, you've probably noticed all the conversations happening between Catholics, Orthodox, and Protestants, all claiming that their church is superior in some way. I don't want to try to prove any given tradition today, but I do want to talk about something that must be present regardless of the tradition that any of us come to, and that is authentic worship. Welcome to the Common Faith. I believe at the end of the day, all Christians are learning to authentically worship God. We can do it differently, and it can look like many different things, but it must be sincere. Authentic worship is a proper love of God and neighbor. Authentic worship is a heart posture towards Christ and is embodied in many different traditions. As I walk the path of a 21st century follower of Christ, I have struggled quite a bit with the exclusivist claims of the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches. While I remain Protestant and continue to assess the arguments of each tradition, I do want to point out a beauty that belongs to each. I can't really talk too much about the Eastern Orthodox Divine Liturgy, but I do want to go someday. Regardless, I have noticed immense beauty and authenticity within the Catholic Church high church experience and the low church Protestant experience. These people sincerely love God and want His goodness and love to be spread all over the earth. Here are some of those experiences and examples. So, a little bit of background for me. I was baptized Presbyterian as a baby. Now, I left the faith, but eventually was evangelized to by a Baptist and then was ultimately saved in a Pentecostal church. Quite polar opposites, if you ask me. The Assembly of God church I went to was amazing. One of my first visits was during a Wednesday night prayer meeting. We gathered in a circle around individuals who wanted prayer, laid hands on them, and prayed out loud. That doesn't sound crazy now, but as a recent convert out of agnosticism, I was out of my element. Not only was I witnessing this, but the pastor turned to me and said, "Eli, you pray next." I don't know what to pray. I don't know what to say. But he was calm, gentle, and confident in my ability to do so. So I prayed. I prayed for what the guy asked for, and then I stopped. I opened my eyes to see what was happening, but everyone else was still praying. Not only that, but they started praying in tongues. That was something I had never experienced before or seen before. I didn't even know what it was. But at this point, my curiosity for the faith and my curiosity for their love for one another outweighed my feeling that this was strange or weird. So I just continued to go. I began to go there every Sunday, and people would have their hands up in worship and would sing with all of their might. They loved God, and it showed every Sunday. And it wasn't performative. It was sincere and from their heart, and you can tell. Contrast that with a completely different experience that I had at a Catholic Mass. I had been going to this Catholic church every now and then for the last couple of years. At this point, that for the experience that I'm going to talk about now, I had recently come out of a time of my life where everything kind of seemed chaotic and out of control, out of my control, I guess. I went there and everything melted away. These people were lovely, the hymns were beautiful, and I literally cried in that Catholic church. I sensed as if I was a part of something unchanging. I felt small, but in a good way. And all of the important things racing in my mind started to ease away into insignificance. This wasn't a rock concert trying to hype me up. This was peace. This was the tranquility I had lacked for the past year. Finally at rest, I teared up. When the Mass ended, I placed the liturgical book back in its pew shelf. I performed the sign of the cross with the holy water, and I walked outside. I remember it was a beautiful day with light rain, an additional note of calm that covered this canon event of my life. The point is, every Christian tradition has this somewhere, but every single one also lacks it at times too. I've been to performative rock concert Protestant churches. I've witnessed rote, vain Catholic masses. The point is, once the theory and head knowledge ends, we need to pray. If we aren't making prayerful decisions, then we are making prayerless decisions. And we won't ever be at peace with a prayerless decision. We don't want to be theologically correct only to be wrong in the practice of that theology. That's not to say that theology doesn't matter. It really does. This doesn't devolve into relativism, but instead confirms this simple fact. We aren't heads on sticks. Theology without prayer is just philosophy with extra steps. Instead, live out your faith. Practice the traditions your convictions have brought you to and do it well. Do all things as if unto the Lord, even your Christianity. Thank you, and God bless.